Welcome to the Fourth and Short podcast, a breakdown of the hottest topics on the Schuylkill League sports scene, with your hosts, Eli Doyle and Leroy Boyer.
Hello and welcome to the T102 Sports Now.com's weekly podcast, Fourth and Short. I'm Leroy Boyer, this is Eli Doyle, and we are live from the WPPA Pottsville Broadcasting Company studios in downtown Pottsville, a little in-house edition this week, Eli. Let's go over week 4 of the high school football season. We'll break down last week's games a little bit, and we'll talk about some teams in general. Random thoughts this week about high school football as we close in on the halfway point already of the regular season with these week 5 games coming up. So last week, Pottsville beat Bangor 44-13, tied even their record at 2-2. Blue Mountain gave defending state champion Northwestern Lehigh all it can handle. The Tigers emerged victorious 34-28. Southern Lehigh makes the long trek to North Schuylkill and comes away with a big win, 34-14. On Thursday, Jim Thorpe beat Tamaqua 34-27. Those games were in the red division. The crossover game, Lee Heighton now 2-2. They beat Palmerton 35-0. In the blue division, game you were at, Williams Valley beat Minersville 43-40 in an offensive shootout. Schuylkill Haven defeated Monterey Area 69-0. They're 4-0. Marion's 4-0. They beat Shenandoah Valley 34-6. Tri-Valley is now 3-1. They beat Nativity 42-13. And then in the Saturday night homecoming special at Pine Grove, game we were both at, Panther Valley defeated Pine Grove 21-6. Let's talk about some games from week 4. You were at Minersville, Williams Valley. Tell us about that one and your thoughts now that you have had a chance to sit and digest it a little bit.
Well, it was such a game, I think I'm still digesting it, to be honest with you. Even, almost 5 days removed now. Honestly, it was everything you almost expected it to be, right? On the Battling Miners side, Dante Carr did Dante Carr things. He had a great help around him. Peyton LaPointe, Matt Dubé, offensive weapons. And on the flip side, the Vikings, wow. Where are they just everything that they are, on a billboard about? They just can power run the ball right at you whenever they want. And it doesn't even feel like they've opened their playbook that much. And they were still able to walk out of Veterans Memorial Stadium in Minersville with a 40-point W.
It's really hard to gauge teams like Minersville, like Williams Valley, like Schuylkill Haven, even Marion, the teams that are in that top 4 echelon of the Blue Division. It's hard to gauge just how good they are when they're playing the teams from the bottom end of the division, right. The teams that are 0-4, and the teams that are really struggling, when the games are mismatches before they even kick off.
Right.
I think it's interesting now, and Minersville, Williams Valley is probably the first one, where all these good teams now are going to play each other. And you just get to see just how good Williams Valley is and just how good Dante Carr is. I mean, Dante Carr, he's going to Central Florida. Is Division I football player, going to be a quarterback for Scott Frost's team. But there was still people that were like, okay, Dante Carr going to Central Florida. He showed against Williams Valley just how good he can be on the football field.
And what I was trying to spit out earlier was Williams Valley was as advertised. That defense, they gave up 40-something points, but man, were they working all night. And it wasn't just Dante Carr, as I mentioned, LaPointe and Dubé had nice games on offense. Derek Dorenzo, another guy to watch for the Battling Miners. They love getting him the ball in his hands and just letting him do what he can do. And gosh, where do you even start with that defense? The front 8 basically feel like monsters for Williams Valley. And then you have athletic guys like Fletcher Thompson on the outside backer. And, even Schomper, who's the quarterback, doesn't get as much love at cornerback. But, man, is he really good there, too?
Yeah, Trayvon Bear is a stud. Him and Evan Kandibowski play the middle linebacker roles in that. Like, basically a 5-2, 5-3, 5-4 sometimes defense that Williams Valley throws out. The big boys up front, Sean Romberger, all 330 pounds of them. But Bear and Kandibowski, they're everywhere when teams try to run the ball.
Right.
And in these games that they've played before where they were mismatches, Williams Valley's defense was dominating because they were hands above the other team. But even against Minersville, they showed just how good they can be, despite giving up 40 points.
Right, and the thing that, Coach Sadesi at Williams Valley they wanted to prevent was putting the ball in Carr's hands and giving the ball to Minersville as much as possible. Don't give them the ball, and Minersville started with the ball, and Williams Valley was able to get a takeaway. A young kid, young Criswell, he came out with a pick, and it set them up to take the lead early and then kind of try to sit on the ball. But man, Minersville make it hard. I mean, they scored in bunches fast.
And another takeaway that gets lost in the shuffle of how good, Minersville was and how good Williams Valley was. How about Jordan Bowers? 3 onside kicks. Did the same thing against Schuylkill Haven last year on that field. The more opportunities you can give Dante Carr, Peyton LaPointe, and the Minersville offense to have the ball, the more points they're going to score.
We love special teams players on this program, and Jordan Bowers is one that's near and dear to our heart. He is a consummate stud on the soccer field for the Batlin Miners rejuvenated boys soccer program. And he comes out on Fridays, Thursdays this week, and kicks for the football team. And man, does he do a tremendous job. Chaz Hepler was joking on the broadcast. He was putting them out on Carbon Street over the scoreboard.
He was booming them.
And the coaching staff, just because I have a few ins there.
I wonder.
Yeah, a little bit. They were telling me at pregame.
They work in your hallway.
At pregame, they were telling me that he was knocking them down from around 50 in warm-up. So, that's a weapon. And it's not just, it doesn't stop there. We have kickers in bunches. And one thing I'd like to point out, shout out some of the punters in our area. We have tremendous punters. I got a chance to watch Andrew Allen at Pottsville earlier in the season. An underrated highlight of their Jim Thorpe game was the fact that he made Jim Thorpe work because he started them with it inside the 20 basically every drive that Pottsville didn't get points off of.
I was impressed with Trey Porter, who punts for Tri-Valley in the Tri-Valley Marion game, which was a one-score game, for most of it, on grass.
Right.
On grass. On turf, you get the turf roll, and the averages go up a little bit. But on grass, you don't get that roll on most fields. Some of them are a little harder now without the rain we've had. Without the lack of rain we've had. But still, to put big averages up on grass was impressive that night.
I'm gonna make a promise to you right here. We're gonna get some kicker punter stats for the next podcast.
That sounds
We're gonna
good.
bring some names.
Hey, so let's talk about the Red Division teams for a little bit. The Pottsvilles, the North Schuylkills, the Blue Mountains. We got to take in the Jim Thorpe Tamaqua game on Thursday. Terrence McDowell from Tamaqua carried it 42 times. Touchdown Terrence. 42 times. Tamaqua overcame a 21-0 deficit. Tied it. Jim Thorpe went back ahead. Tamaqua drove down and scored. Little bit of a iffy penalty on the touchdown. Made them go 18 yards for the conversion. They didn't get it. And then Jim Thorpe just ran out the clock. And then, ballsy move on 4th down, goes for the home run touchdown, and they got it.
Pays off.
And they got up by 8. Tamaqua had a little bit of time left, but not enough time to run the ball down the field like they had before that. Gutsy win for Jim Thorpe, but I came away, a little bit more impressed with both teams than I had before.
Absolutely. I got a chance to see Jim Thorpe a couple times this year. And by now I feel like I have a good gauge on them just because I got to see them 2 or 3 times this year. Cole Lazoric is everything as advertised. He's maybe the toughest kid on any field he steps on. And when they could get more kids involved in the offense, some more of those skill position players on the outside, they cause fits for teams. They did it to Pottsville. They did it to Tamaqua. Jim Thorpe, not a team to be slept on.
Yeah, Josh Lauk had a big game running the ball, broke off a 60-some yard touchdown in the first half. Made some big plays on defense. I think he rushed for 160 yards. McDowell rushed for 227 yards, somewhere in that number. Tamaqua's going to run the ball. They don't have much of a passing game. They were able to complete some passes at key moments, but for Tamaqua, they've perfected that counter run game that they have. Sometimes power eye, sometimes counter, and they're good at it.
Yeah, tough-nosed football.
Let's talk about Blue Mountain for a second. So
Speaking of tough-nosed football.
Let's talk about Blue Mountain for a second. Now, their schedule maker didn't do them any justice this year. Schuylkill Haven was their opener, number 1 team in AA. They played Southern Lehigh, who's the number 2 team in 4A in the state. And then, after they beat Jim Thorpe, last week they have to travel to Northwestern Lehigh, who was number 1 in 3A in the state, fell to number 2 this week. Got leapfrogged by Avonworth.
Reigning state champion.
Yeah, reigning state champion. Northwestern Lehigh hasn't lost since somewhere in I think the 2023 state championship game.
2003. Hold on.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. 2023. But Blue Mountain, I think 1-3. They got to be like one of the top 1-3 teams in the state of Pennsylvania.
They have to be a top 5 1-3 team on this side of the Mississippi, right?
I mean, they have a knack for making big plays. I mean, they're not the grind. They're not the Tamaqua. They're not going to have 10, 11 play drives where all they do is run the ball. They've had Chase Gears long punt returns. They had Reese Miller making plays, block field goal against Schuylkill Haven, takes it back for a touchdown. They've had punt returns. They've had kickoff returns. They've had fumble recoveries in the end zone for scores. They seem to be able to make the big play.
Right. It's just a matter of, can we put it all together?
And this week, Blue Mountain goes to Bangor, long road trip, should come away with a win. 0-4 Bangor, outscored by a lot of points this year. But their schedule gets interesting after that. They still have to play Pottsville, still have to play North Schuylkill, still have to play Palisades in a crossover game, unbeaten Palisades, 4-0. Still have to play Tamaqua at the end of the year, still have to play like Highton. So for Blue Mountain, I mean, the road doesn't get any easier, but you have to feel confident if you're Chuck Kutz that his team's ready to rip off a couple wins.
Yeah, you just, like I said, you have to hope and keep working towards the goal. We're gonna put this all together. We're gonna once it clicks, it'll just be like second nature, right? And we'll be able to just do this in and out of our sleep.
Brody Foose is one of the top running backs in the area. Does not have a touchdown in 4 games. I was amazed when I put the stats together this week, which you can see the area statistical leaders through week 4 on our T102 Sports Now.com slate. Go to football, go down, and the story should be there. I think there's a picture of Peyton LaPointe as the photo for that story. But no touchdowns from Brody Foose yet. I think that ends very shortly and in abundance.
Yeah, could be this week.
How about Pottsville? 2-2 Pottsville. Played tough against Shamokin, lost that game, came back and beat Jim Thorpe, then somehow lost to Tamaqua, and then they rebound last week with a win over Bangor. I think we kind of maybe overestimated this Pottsville team a little bit. They're still young, still trying to find their way, but I think they're starting to put some of the pieces together. Yeah,
I think from a coaching perspective, right, you take the good with the bad, right? You have to be able to take steps forward. And for that to happen, you have to have stuff to build off of, right? And it's just a matter of keeping your players, focused, keeping the goals in mind, right? Everything that Pottsville has on the table is still in front of them, right? They still have goals to work towards. Their season doesn't end this week. So for Mike Brennan and company, it's just a matter of putting the foot down, right? Grinding it out, staying on game plan, and walking away with W's.
Now, with the red division teams, they're the big school division teams. Most of them are in 4A. And when it comes to the District 11 playoffs, there are 10 teams in 4A, and 8 of them make the playoffs.
Right.
So even if you only win 3 or 4 games during the course of the season, you got a shot at making the playoffs. So Lee Highton, Jim Thorpe, they got in last year with 3 and 4 wins. And obviously, Lee Highton was the 7th seed and pulled off the big upset over Blue Mountain in the first round. But so if you're Pottsville and you're Lee Highton and you're Jim Thorpe and you're Blue Mountain, you almost pretty guaranteed that you're going to make the district playoffs. It's all, but I almost think that you just want to kind of make sure that when you get to week 8, 9, and 10, you feel confident about your team that when you get to week 11, you can do some damage.
And not only that, you want to stay healthy enough to compete at that time of year. We've already seen just it's not just our area, but all around us. Devastating injuries. Making teams have to maybe find a new way this week and show teams that they can win without certain guys.
And we'll talk about that locally here in a minute or two. North Schuylkill, though, is a different case. And Tamaqua is also in the same boat here. There are 9 teams in AAA in District 11, but only 4 make the playoffs. And you're already including Notre Dame Green Pond, who probably will go undefeated here, and Northwestern Lehigh, who's 4-0, and they haven't lost, as we said, in a long, long time. If you're North Schuylkill, you almost have to be a little bit more on the gas pedal because you got to make that field.
Absolutely.
Right now, they're the number 3 team. Salisbury's 2-2, and then Tamaqua's right after them. I mean, the fortunate news for the Spartans is that after those top three, there's a steep drop off.
Right.
To the 4, 5, and 6 teams. There have been years where in that AAA bracket, when Jim Thorpe was in there, you go 8-2, you don't make it.
Right.
So I mean, North Schuylkill, there's not a lot of room for error there, and last week they went and kind of laid an egg a little bit against Southern Lehigh. I was at the game, and Southern Lehigh dominated up front, which is you don't usually see from a North Schuylkill team. And Southern Lehigh came out. Sean Steckert, the running back, rushed for 221 yards. Southern Lehigh kind of did whatever they wanted to there. Offensively, I think North Schuylkill got maybe 2 stops the whole game. Wally Hall not a happy camper after the game, and deservedly so. I think he expected more from his bunch. North Schuylkill, it's got to be intensity from here on.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like it reminds me of the Notre Dame case right now, right? Notre Dame, a lot different, 0-2, but still, right? A sense of urgency, feeling must win right now. And you know what, though? It doesn't feel exactly the same as I think it would if we had question marks on the coaching side or, the personnel side. We know what North Schuylkill is made of, right? We know what that roster can do. We know what that coaching staff can certainly do. For Coach Hall and the Spartans, it's just a matter of getting their swagger back to me.
I agree. Landon Smith being hurt is a key. He's their outside receiving threat. In the first 2 games, you remember, North Schuylkill put up 62 on Mount Carmel and 50 on Tamaqua, and then was right there at the end of the game, losing by a point to Notre Dame Green Pond, who I have a guess, that they're going to see again probably somewhere along the line, district playoffs, as they seem to do every year. But Landon Smith got hurt in that Notre Dame game. He did not play last week, and you could just tell that North Schuylkill's offense, it was Mengel and Miller and, maybe a dash of Ortiz here and there, but not too much else. They missed Landon Smith on the outside. They need him healthy, when they get down into the stretch run, when they got to play, Blue Mountain and Pottsville, down near the end of the road.
Yeah, I think you nailed that spot on.
So let's shift to the blue division, okay? The black and blue division, as you like to call it. All season long, we've talked about the big separation between the haves and the have-nots.
Right.
What makes this division interesting, is when the haves play each other, the have-nots got to play each other. Right. So
it's my favorite time of year.
So last week we saw 2 winless teams. Panther Valley play Pine Grove. Homecoming.
Saturday Night Delight.
Saturday Night Delight. We had Williams fries. We had apple dumplings. I got to try them with cinnamon ice cream. The lady tried to convince me, and I didn't go with it. One with the vanilla ice cream. Very good, but the cinnamon ice cream has me thinking I may have to cover another Pine Grove game just to have one of those. We'll see. But winless Panther Valley, winless Pine Grove, and Panther Valley comes out with a nice win, 21-6. There's going to be some games, like this week, for example, you got Pine Grove at Shenandoah. It's interesting to see, like Nativity and Panther Valley play this week. Just some of those teams, somebody's got to win.
Right. Somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to lose. It's the age-old question, right? It's going to come down to who wants it more, in my opinion. Who doesn't want to face potentially going winless?
And we talked on our Touchdown Tip Show, which you can, listen to every Friday at 5:30 or 5:20. Sometimes he starts it a little early on WPPA, 1360 AM, 105.9 FM. Chaz Hepler doing a great job as the producer of that show, orchestrating a ridiculous cast of 7 guys all stuck in the same room for an hour or so.
A ridiculous masterclass, as I like to call it.
Yes, entertainment at its fullest as you're heading out to the football games on Friday. Make sure you listen to that. There's just, you'll laugh. You just can't help it at some of the stuff that we say and some of the things that are said in that show.
It's like a good meal, right? You're going to get a good appetizer during the day. You get the fantastic Friday football. Then you get the main course. You get touchdown tips. And then afterwards, you even get a little fluff. You even get a little, ice cream, pie, whatever you want to call it, with the incomparable Italian there, Alfredo McCurry.
The Mike Brennan show.
Yep.
Was usually at a different location every week.
Yeah.
Kind of like us, we bounce around, but Alfredo does a great job with the Mike Brennan show. And then, Pottsville football every Friday night, or in the one case Saturday afternoon game. I think we have a Nativity Minersville game on Friday night here on that. Let's talk about the heavyweights. of the Blue Division. So you got to see Minersville and Williams Valley. I saw Williams Valley play Nativity in week 3. I have not seen Minersville yet. I saw Schuylkill Haven in week 1 and their big win against Blue Mountain. I saw Marion beat Tri-Valley. So I've seen everybody in that group of 5 there except Minersville, and I'll see them this week when they play Schuylkill Haven. I'm not sure who you've seen in that group yet, but just your thoughts on those 5 teams and how things might shake out.
Excuse me. Yeah. No, I think it could shake out a bunch of different scenarios. I think it's way too early to figure out scenarios yet because, like you mentioned earlier, you still have Palisades and Northern Lehigh that could disrupt the district from a 2A standpoint. But as far as Williams Valley, Minersville, Schuylkill Haven, Marion, I think you throw Tri-Valley in there too. I think those schools really, it's the rubber hitting the road, right? Here we go. You got to put it on now because you want the best possible spot going into the playoffs. You want to play the lowest seed, right? I mean, that's just the nature of the
you want a home game.
Right, you want a home game.
You want a home game. You want to play in front of your fans.
Right.
You want to play in your environment.
And I believe you can only get that in the quarters, right?
Yeah. In the semifinals. So similar to 4A, AA has 10 teams and 8 of them get in.
Don't try to figure out the PIAA.
Yeah.
Don't try to.
We can't.
Don't cry if they see a clip of Rob Gronkowski spiking a ball.
Yeah. yes. And the Tamako kid. But Schuylkill Haven, Williams Valley, Minersville, you mentioned Palisades and Northern Lehigh, figure to be the top 5 teams in that AA mix in some fashion.
Right. So
if you're the 3 local teams, you want to get in the top 4. You want to get a home game against a team that you should beat.
Right.
There's going to be some teams that sneak into that AA field. For example, Mono area, which has no wins right now, and Shenandoah Valley, which has no wins right now. One of them will probably make the field. Last year, Mono got in at number 8. It's an interesting. You want to be. I don't say you want a super easy game in the quarters, but you certainly don't want the 4-5 game against a team similar to Minersville last year that got upset in the first round.
Right.
So these games are kind of all for seeding, but in the long run, we're making the playoffs.
Right.
So being healthy, as you talked about, turns into a key. Schuylkill Haven loses Nico Carastilla last week, last Friday to a broken leg against Mono area on a carry around the left side, right in front of, the locker room area where a lot of people stand. I think if there's a team in our area that's equipped enough to handle that kind of injury to an all-state caliber kid. I mean, Nico Carastilla is one of the top AA players in the state. No question about it on both sides of the ball.
Right. Haven
has the offensive weapons in the backfield with Nico Castillo, Colton Reber, sophomore Logan Gold, which you'll see more from him, and I like him. I think he's a very talented running back. Defensively, though, Schuylkill Haven, that's a big loss for them. Carastilla had over 100 tackles the last 2 years. Anchor of the defense in the middle. There's pieces for Schuylkill Haven to move people around to fill that, but I don't think they're going to be able to replace the production on defense that he gave.
Right, and the only thing worse maybe than possibly this happening coming up against Minersville would be coming up against Williams Valley maybe. But if you're a Hurricane faithful, you know what your team's going to bring. And they might even bring it more now that, they have a little bit of an emotional play to play off of. They're going to be hard-nosed. They're going to run the ball right at you. They're going to control the clock. They're going to be in charge of the clock because they're probably going to have the ball. On defense, they're going to be up front and they're going to smack you. It's how you respond, right? And I think the Cane culture is still high in the little borough that could. And I expect the Hurricanes to, I don't want to say miss a beat because I don't think you can exactly be as whole when you miss a player like Nico Carastilla. But at the same time, I expect them to, at least show signs that, hey, we can do this without him as well.
Now, we're not doctors.
No.
Not anywhere close to being a doctor or a medical person that will be able to figure out and tell you right here and right now, yeah, this kid's coming back in X number of weeks. You do a quick Google search of how long does it recover from a broken leg, and a normal broken leg 6 to 8 weeks, which would put him in condition to be back for the playoffs. Now, a complex fracture, which we've been told this is not an easy one, and one to the lower leg area, which this is, medical professionals will tell you 3 to 6 months, if not more. There are crazy rumors out there that he's going to be back in like 2 weeks. I'm not sure how true they are. We'll find out. But there's still the open possibility that before, the frost gets on the pumpkin and it's playoff time, that 44 is back in Schuylkill Haven's lineup.
Yeah. Yep. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be a great addition, for Schuylkill Haven if he's able to come back. Hopefully whoever's managing that care doesn't rush him.
Right. Absolutely.
It's not imperative that a high school kid pushes it to play a week 5 game when he puts himself in jeopardy of then playing weeks 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Absolutely. That was a phenomenal way to put
it. Let's talk about Marion for a minute. Marion is an interesting case study. So the Colts, not too long ago, didn't have enough players. They were forfeiting games. Stan DeCoste comes out of retirement, kind of breathes life, gives CPR to the football program, which, was all but dead. They start winning some games. They get to the District 11 final a couple of years ago, lose to Minersville. Billy O'Gorick comes in, Coach DeCoste, Hall of Fame coach, great guy at Marion. He retires. Billy O'Gorick comes in, and the program doesn't really skip a beat. Their bulk of their schedule is in the back half. They play all these tough teams from the Blue Division, in the second half of the season. They play Mono area this week, which is winless. They should go to 5-0, which I honestly can't tell you the last time a Marion team opened the season 5-0. But they're putting themselves in position, single A now, sub-regional with District 2. There's only 6 teams, and 4 of them make the playoffs. Lackawanna Trail is the powerhouse from District 2, but the other 2 schools, Old Forge and Holy Cross, are having rough years. So between Nativity, Tri-Valley, Marion, the Colts are in prime position to get a home game and, maybe get to the district final.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Coach Billy O'Gorick and the coaching staff up there for the Colts, because, man, are they just chugging along. I doubt he's such a nice guy. I doubt Billy O'Gorick has ever had a naysayer in his life. But if he has, he's definitely proved them wrong, because it just feels like there's this energy with that Colts squad, right? John Bouchatti, Rory Dixon, Tyler Price, these guys, and they're more than just football players. They're more than just a position player, right? They go do multiple things on that field. They do multiple sports at that school. It just feels like there's an energy about that team, and I love it right now.
I was impressed with their defense against Tri-Valley in the game I saw them. It seems like there's been like a dozen Redinos over the past couple of years, but Dominic and Damien are the 2 anchors of that defense. Bouchatti is in the middle. Price and Jacob Tom were excellent in the back end of the secondary there in that game against Tri-Valley. And they've been putting up games where they've been getting up 6, 0 points. 14 to Tri-Valley, I think, is the highest they've given up all year. Defense wins championships, and they're big up front. But we'll see how they hold up against Minersville, Williams Valley, Schuylkill Haven. But you got to like what they're offering on the defensive side of the ball.
Another special shout out. They do some things on special teams very well. So special teams wins games. Don't forget that.
Yeah, and obviously their defense has been scoring.
Oh yeah,
defense. I'm pretty sure they have 5 defensive touchdowns.
I think they have 1 in each game. Right?
Yeah,
Almost.
at least.
Yeah.
So if you can put points on the board without your offense, whether it's special teams or defense, always a bonus.
Right.
Always good in the back and forth. The last team to talk about is Tri-Valley. Lost that game to Marion, but has since racked up 2 impressive wins. Shut out Pine Grove, and then they beat Nativity up 42-13 last Friday. Trey Porter was the quarterback, the new quarterback this year. It's been kind of a trial by fire. He's had his good points and his bad points, but Tri-Valley has a pretty good 1-2 running back punch in Parker Hatter and Cole Gemberling, and they're starting to really find their form.
Right. And for them, too, defensively, not giving up bunches of points, always going to help, right? And giving your offense opportunities to be on the field, control that clock, do things well. We talked to Trey Porter on this program, just a couple weeks ago.
Shout out to the bullpen.
Shout out to the bullpen. Great people out there. But Trey Porter, he also has this aura about him, right? He's such a nice, friendly face. You talk to him at football, you talk to him at basketball, you talk to him at baseball, you talk to him, just out in the valley over the summer. He's such a nice, young, respectable man. He fits that quarterback mold so much. So I'm so interested to see, just how he continues to work in that role and how the Dogs, keep developing as the season goes along.
I'm curious to see how he looks later in the year after seeing him week 2, where he struggled. If you want to make the baseball analogy, a lot of his pitches were high and outside. Not on the mark, not over the plate. And 2 got picked off late that prevented Tri-Valley from coming back and winning the game. And then the final point of this, blue division, if you're one of these teams at the bottom, so right now there are 3 winless teams, Mono area, Pine Grove, and Shenandoah Valley.
Won't be for long.
Somebody's going to win games here, right? I mean, is there, in your mind, is there a team that goes 0-10?
Yes.
Care to throw out which one you think it might be?
Well, I just, from an outside perspective right now, it looks to be, unfortunately, Joey Shimo's Golden Bears. Just from my perspective. Of course, that coaching staff was not given any favors or breaks by only getting that team in, I don't even want to say early summer. It was like midsummer.
Maybe a month and a half.
Right.
I know at the football challenge in June, I don't even think they had a coach at the football challenge yet.
It just,
so that was mid-June.
I mean, you're fighting, I don't even know if you call it an uphill battle. You got to go up an elevator shaft with no ladder or no elevator, nothing. You got to just figure it out. And how do you sell kids on that? Football, for lack of a better way to explain it, head coaches, they're almost like car salesmen, right? They have to be able to sell you this vehicle. They have to be able to sell you on this program. If you know better than me, if you're not bought in 100%, you're not doing anything for that team. So they're a young squad. They have a lot of new kids, a lot of turnover. Like I said, it feels like everything's working against them.
Now, a shout out to the kids who play on those teams.
Absolutely.
Because let's be honest, in today's modern society of teenage youth, they give up.
Right.
They don't work hard. When the going's not good, they get out. And that's the best way to put it. They're not willing to devote all summer and devote every night at practice when they go out every Friday night and they get their butts beat up.
Right.
And they go home and they're tired and sore and losing 40, 50, 60, whatever to nothing.
And even worse now in the social media age when now you have to see it over and over again between cameras with Huddle and Instagram and moms on Facebook and,
I mean, but shout out to those kids who stick it out.
Absolutely.
And what how do you get over that? Well, you try to build your culture. You try to keep it going and get more kids out for the team. You try to speak the positives. You try to talk the program up. Yeah, we lost. But, we're having a good time. We're having fun. And you should come out and join us. We'd be better if we had you.
Right.
I've said this throughout my sports writing career. To be successful at a small school, even ones that are good, you have to have every able body in that school that can help you in some fashion. Maybe they're not going to start. Maybe they're the backup lineman, right? Maybe they're the third safety, or maybe they just play special teams, but they make a difference because they give somebody a break or they add depth to the roster.
Right.
And maybe they become really good at it. Eventually.
Right. And I could just, if I could have the floor for a second, I'll tell you, just because I have some inside sources in Minersville, I could tell you a success story, a kid by the name of Brandon Adams that Minersville has, Justin France and those boys on that team have got to come out, and there's more examples on that team, but have got to come out at an upperclassman age and not only have found their way in the lineup, but done well in the field. I mean, we saw him, he was all over the place week 1 making tackles for them. He has a couple fumble recoveries on the field on the stat book this year. just an absolute success story, and he's helping that squad. And who's to say that they would get where they are right now without him?
I mean, the perfect example of what we're talking about happened this week in the Schuylkill League Golf Championship. So, Blue Mountain wins their second league title in a row.
Shout out.
Sam Vink, freshman from Tamaqua, wins the overall boys title. Vivian Ripers from Lourdes wins the girls title. But Cole Fry, lefty hitting senior from Blue Mountain, come out for the first time this year, only picked up the sport about a year and a half ago, but the work ethic that he put in from the time he said, hey, I'm going to play golf, and I'm going to come out for the golf team. Kid shoots a 79 and a 78 in back-to-back days, and he was the reason, Blue Mountain ended up winning the league title. Without him, they may still have won it, but not by the margin that they did. And, he's the perfect example that if you do it, you'll have success at it in some fashion.
What was that name again? Cole Fry?
Cole Fry.
Cole Fry. Eli Doyle's dog of the week. Cole Fry. Blue Mountain High School. Ooh.
Hey, let's go through the schedule for week 5. Go through the schedule for week 5.
What they want.
And we'll wrap this up. So Thursday night special. Again, another Thursday night special. We have a lot of them. A lot of good matchups on Thursday night this year.
Must be my birthday.
Minersville at Schuylkill Haven. You can listen to that game on T102, 101.9 FM. Chaz Hepler and the crew will be live from Rotary Field. We will both be there hanging out. That's Thursday night. No Saturday games this week. The rest of the games are on Friday. Pottsville treks to Southern Lehigh. Northwestern Lehigh is at Lehighton. Pottsville treks to Southern Lehigh. North Schuylkill hosts Jim Thorpe. And then we go to the Blue Division. We mentioned Minersville, Schuylkill Haven. Marion is at Montpelier. Williams Valley is at Tri-Valley. Panther Valley is against Nativity over in St. Clair. And then Pine Grove goes to Shenandoah Valley, with one team looking to end a lengthy losing streak. Shenandoah has lost 20 in a row. Pine Grove has lost 9 in a row. So good. Somebody's going to win a game, and that's a positive thing for those two programs.
Right. Can I tell you which game I'm super excited for?
Go ahead.
The T102 game of the week. Williams Valley at Tri-Valley. Not only is it's the old school Fashion Valley rivalry, buddy, but also a little inside football, a little inside the locker room. You know who's going to be back? Ty Wortman on assignment this week. You know what that means?
Is this a John Powers game?
It would be that one John Powers. Some say my illegitimate father.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's close. It's close. JP, one of the legends of broadcasting here at Pottsville, retired at the end of last season. You guys infamously videotaped him at a game. Always witty, always great insight, great analyst. He'll be on the call with Chaz.
Loves doing this for the kids. Loves giving the kids the
absolutely.
absolute
He's a big fan of everything we've been doing here at T102 Sports Now. Don't forget that you can get coverage of all of the Schuylkill League sports every night before you go to bed at T102sportsnow.com. You can get our football stuff every day. There's something new, and then our podcast, obviously, on our YouTube channel that took a break for a couple days and then was put back up by YouTube.
Don't get me going. I'm already mad at the PIAA. I don't want to be bad at Google again. But can I? We got to get a little better at this ourselves. We have to put in here. Hit that subscribe button down in the corner for us. That's great. We love seeing fan engagement. Go ahead, drop us a comment and let us know what your favorite part is. I know Leroy wants to get out of here. He wants to get upstairs. There's some pizza calling his name. But we love the fan engagement. Make sure you give us a like on Facebook. Make sure you follow us on X. I almost said Twitter. Check out all our social media pages, but most importantly, give us a good subscribe down here. Follow everything we post on YouTube, because you never know when we're going to post a goodie.
Well, and not only our podcast, but even Bob Lipsky does interviews at games, and all those interviews.
Shout out Bob,
doing a great job. All those interviews are on our YouTube channel. So
and highlights and more. Athlete of the week.
Athlete of the week. Great job by Manny Fresh taking that over. This week's Athlete of the Week was Tanner Kolb from Pine Grove. 9 goals in 4 games.
Ooh.
I mean, I think he scored every one of Pine Grove's goals but one in a 4-game span. So shout out to him. And, obviously all the coverage of Schuylkill League sports moving forward. It's almost playoff time in soccer and volleyball, and we'll have a full coverage of that as we get that far. So for Eli Doyle, week 5 is upcoming in the high school football season. And this is the 4th and Short podcast. I'm Leroy Boyer. That's Eli Doyle. We'll see you next week.